Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to an episode of Canucks Conversation brought to you by Bet365. We are coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is David Quadrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. Early start to Canucks Conversation today, a minute early, and it's call it an emergency episode, call it what you want. We've got some breaking news courtesy of our pal Irfaan Gaffar over at CanucksArmy.com. The Vancouver Canucks are nearing an agreement to build a practice facility at Britannia Rink. Irf reporting that about an hour ago over at Canucks Army. Irf's going to join us in a matter of moments here, but a positive story for the Canucks. And heading into the deadline, Harm, how much do we say, like, this team just so badly needed a win? And we weren't talking about on-ice wins, of course. We were talking about off-ice wins, and this is certainly an off-ice win for the Canucks.
Yeah, and I remember at the start of Rutherford's tenure, he sounded optimistic every time he was asked about the practice facility. But the funny part was each successive time he got asked by it, he sounded almost less and less optimistic about it getting done, to the point where at the end of last season's presser, he was making jokes about whether he was still going to be around by the time the facility was actually built.
And not just around the Canucks. Like, after I've walked this earth was the verbiage used.
Yeah, and so with all that in mind, I think a lot of us were losing hope that this was going to get done anytime soon. And look, just because you've neared an agreement, it doesn't mean that the facility is right around the corner in terms of being built and being ready for use, obviously. But reaching an agreement is at least an important first step towards that goal. And as I'm sure we'll get into with Irf, the location is actually pretty good, right? It's
absolutely.
We knew that land and finding space for it in Vancouver is pricey, was going to be difficult. And yet they've come up with a potentially great location, I think, about 10 minutes away from Rogers Arena, East Van, relatively close to downtown. It's not a practice facility that's way out in, like, deep into Burnaby or...
Hey, watch it.
I'm talking about convenience for players, right? Most of them live downtown or further north. So having something that's relatively close by does matter.
Absolutely, it matters. You're absolutely right. And it's a great location. And Britannia, remember, they closed down in 2024. They had to repair a brine leak. And then 2026, like last month, they reopened to the public. I had someone in the Canucks Army comment section be like, that's my stick and puck rink. I've just got back on the ice. And that's the thing about Britannia. If you've ever skated at Britannia, everybody will tell you some of the best ice in the lower mainland, even though maybe the facility around it is a little bit outdated. Beautiful ice over at Britannia. And that played a part in this as well, which we'll talk to Irf about. You know what? Let's bring in Irf. I'll preface the report as well. Let's bring in Irf. He's brought to you by our friends over at Greta. Great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line, not to pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 for select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, make Greta your spot to watch the next game. Also make it your spot to watch the draft lottery, because we're going to be doing a live stream, watch along, hanging out when the NHL draft lottery date gets announced. We'll have more info, but pencil it in. It's early May, should be the 4th or 5th, I think. We'll be at Greta. Come hang out with us. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Irf joins us now. Irfaan Gaffar reporting earlier today at Canucks Army that the Canucks and the city of Vancouver are close to an agreement to build a practice facility at Britannia Rink. It will include a state-of-the-art gym, off-ice training facility, lounge, and locker room. The build will also include office space for the city. Irf, thanks for taking the time to do this. We've got a lot of questions for you, obviously. I guess the first one being, how did this get done? Like Britannia always was the location that made the most sense, but like what's the catalyst that helped get this over, well, not over the finish line, but get it to the point where we can start talking about it in the way we are now?
I honestly think Britannia was always the number one choice. I think looking around the area and around the lower mainland was just for the sake of the Canucks going and doing that and doing their due diligence. as to what it could look like. I think with the ice being redone at Britannia, the infrastructure kind of there when it comes to a rink, and them only having to build, a 4 or 5 story building, whether that's going to house, like I said, a lounge, a team room, gym, all that sort of stuff, rehab center, like they're going to have a lot of whatever they want is going to be there. But I think the thing that got this done is the fact that they were on it. And I think the city wants it. I think the 2 levels of office space is big for the city of Vancouver as well. And I just think it's been a long time coming. This has been something that they've worked on for quite some time. This has been something that's been in the works. Like you mentioned, Harm, off the top there, Jim Rutherford, said it in the beginning of his tenure that they want to get something done and was optimistic. And then by the end of it, he's like, well, I don't know if it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. It would take something, I think, catastrophic for it to fall through. But by all accounts, everything seems to be, going in the right direction. I believe both parties have renderings of the building and what it's going to look like when it's done. I think the biggest thing a lot of people are mentioning to me now is parking is going to be an issue and things like that. I think they want to make a parking lot there or build a parking lot, whether that's underground or something like that, to figure it out for the players as well. So a lot of work is going to need to be done in and around the area. But the fact of the matter is that I've come on this show so many times this year, and we've had really bad things to talk about, whether that's been the play, whether that's been the lack of trades, and whether that's been the drama on and off the ice. This is a good news story for this organization. This is a great news story for this organization. Look, we can sit here and say that, the Vancouver Canucks are last in the league. Yeah, the only thing that matters right now is getting Gavin McKenna. True. But now that you're getting a practice facility, that's a couple things that you can, start to look forward to and build on as you start to look at the future of this team and this organization. So the fact that it's out there, it's a good news story. People should be happy about it. I know the organization might not be that it's out, but the fact of the matter is that this is a positive thing for this team and the future of this franchise.
What would be next once an agreement is officially reached? And I think sometimes the worry that fans maybe have is until there are shovels in the ground, what could significantly delay or nix the project from kind of happening?
Look, like I said, I think it's nearing. I think it would take something crazy for it not to happen. I think that both parties want this to happen. I think that there is optimism from the city of Vancouver to revitalize that area in and around Britannia. Anyone from these parts would know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of homelessness in and around the area. There's, that area is kind of run down a little bit. You can make it a little bit more vibrant. There are people going there to work every day and things like that now that work for the city. There's some office space there. And from the Canucks point of view, it's just getting your own building, man. It really is. And I talked to someone as a player going to Rogers Arena every single day, all day, every day for practices and for games. Like there's something that you want to separate your workplace a little bit. Like they'd have a spot at Britannia where you go in and that's your spot. You can hang out there for a while and there won't be anyone around you. Whereas Rogers Arena, you can be on the ice and there could be electrical people there that are contracted. There could be someone working on the seats that have been contracted from someone else. You're not really in your own space. And I think for an organization like the Vancouver Canucks, having your own space here for the next foreseeable future will be huge.
And before people in the chat start going, oh, boo-hoo, they want their own space. The fact of the matter is every other organization is able to provide that for their players, including the Calgary Flames as of, 2 years from now. But every other organization can offer that. So it's important that the Canucks are up to that NHL standard. And yeah, you think it's going to be a pretty nice facility. One thing you mentioned in the report, Irf, that I wanted to just quickly touch on as well. The Canucks checked out a lot of spots here, and Britannia was the one that made the most sense. Is this kind of a indication that at some point they just said, okay, whatever, this is going to cost a lot, but we just need to get this done?
Well, I mean, they weren't never going to go to Burnaby. That just didn't make any sense for the players to drive in traffic and whatever. They were never going to go to Richmond. I don't think. I think that Britannia was always a spot. It just made the most sense logistically. And I think once they were able to figure out a framework of a deal, what they wanted, what the city wanted, how it was going to happen, who was going to pay for it, everything that needed to come to fruition for this to take place. I think it was pretty easy to get it done. Once the Canucks realized that this was the spot, that was going to be it for them. And, credit to them. I think this is a long time coming, a very long time coming when you look at it from an organizational standpoint. How many times have we covered practice at UBC or in Burnaby at 8 Rinks or, wherever else they have at Britannia or wherever else they have gone all those years. So it'll be nice for, the players to have a place where they can call their home away from home that isn't Rogers Arena. But I think that from an organizational standpoint, if you want to put offices there, for people as well, you'll be able to do that because that is your space and you'll be able to do whatever you want with it.
Do you have any hint or rough idea as to what the partnership here between the Canucks and the city could look like in terms of who's on, like, are the Canucks on the hook for the vast majority of the cost share? Is the city going to be chipping in? Any idea on what that collaboration and partnership will look like?
Not fully, or not that I can put out right now, but I think that there is going to be, some money coming from the city. I don't think it's going to be a lot. I think the Canucks are going to go and do this and pay for it and, be the ones involved and in front of this. And I think that that's something that they want to do. I think it's something that when you have an agreement with the city, it's like, okay, you're going to get 2 floors of this, but this is our building. This is something that we want, something that we're going to build, and we're going to, front the bill for it a little bit, in a sense where they want to get things done and they want to get it done their way. That's why when I look at it, as soon as this gets done, if and when it gets pushed over the line, you're going to see shovels in the ground pretty quick. Like, I think that they're going to want to move on this fairly quickly. I think it's something that when you look at it as an organizational need, it is very high. And for them to go and do it, and it coming out, whether it came out now when I put it out a couple hours ago on X, or whether it comes out at the end of season at Jim Rutherford's end of season press conference, whatever the month difference, it's not going to make much, except for the fact of the matter is that the Canucks are going to get this done, right? And I think that once we start to figure out the details of this and who ends up really paying for what and things like that, we're going to see that it's mostly going to be the Vancouver Canucks.
Irf, I know I'm wearing a Milwaukee hat and I do my, my woodworking and my home projects, but I don't know how long it takes to build a practice facility. But I will tell you, just based on what you said,
you should put on the hard hat behind you. Take it off the Lego guy.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, if they're gonna build a parking garage, this is the extent of my knowledge of construction. Okay, if they're gonna build a parking garage for players, because that was something you mentioned, right? If they're gonna start digging under Britannia, that's gonna make the project take, I would think, significantly longer.
Because you look into engineering, right? And that's where things get a little bit longer. You have to look into different sites and things like that and what's under there and how can you build? Does this even work? Is it feasible? Can we even make this happen? Those are something that's going to take a little while. And obviously in their planning and stages of construction, that's going to be something that, they're going to look into. But these guys, this isn't their first rodeo. I mean, the Aquilinis know how to build. It's what they're very good at. And they've built a lot of buildings. They've built a lot of different, high rises. They've built low rises. They've built a lot of buildings in and around the Lower Mainland. So once they figure out if that is something that needs to happen, and talking to city engineers and talking to different people and different organizations to make this work, I assume it wouldn't take long. We're professionals in the business. They've been building for a hell of a long time. I can't imagine it would take too long once they figure out what they need to do to get it done.
And all their people use Milwaukee. We've seen that as well.
Broadly speaking, and I know we briefly touched on it when you mentioned the players having a dedicated space away from the NHL game rink itself, but what is the significance for the fans that don't maybe have as much of an idea? I think we as reporters kind of tend to have more interactions with players and understand how much some of these day-to-day amenities and facilities mean to them. But broadly speaking, for the average Canucks fan that is wondering, well, they get to practice at Rogers Arena anyway, why has this practice facility thing been such a big deal, and why would it matter so much to players? What can you sort of provide insight on?
Justin Bourne works for Sportsnet. an analyst, obviously, writer and whatever, and he does a lot, has his own show every day with Nick Kyprios. He quote tweeted me, and I'll just read it. It said, "Long needed, much awaited news for the Canucks' ability to attract/keep talent. People like having practice facilities. People like having a place to go that's different, that's not the rink. And whether you want to lure a free agent with a beautiful practice facility and things like that, I mean, that definitely helps your cause. It does. You can't go without saying. Obviously, we live in one of the most beautiful places in the NHL when it comes to city, but having that practice facility and being able to, go somewhere where, like I said, a place that you call yours, where some days there won't be anybody around. It'll just be you, it'll just be the team and things like that. I think that's definitely a positive. As far as the here and now, it's development too, right? It's your young guys. Can you get your young guys in at rookie camp? You don't have to have your rookie camps at UBC anymore. You don't have to have your rookies going to all these different places and doing that. It's a one-stop shop for absolutely everything. And you know what? Hey, maybe the rookies are at dev camp and they're on the ice first, and then they have the summer skates. And hey, look, there's Elias Pettersson skating with, Philip Roenick and Brock Besser and Zeev Bium, and your rookies and the organization, they're watching from a balcony or whatever it is in the arena, seeing the young guys and be like, this is what you're striving towards. So having that cohesiveness, having that chemistry, having everything in one building under one roof is obviously a huge thing for this organization.
Irf, where's your favorite lunch spot near Britannia? You're right by Commercial Drive. Lots of delis there. You got lots of different options. You're going to be covering practices there. What's your favorite lunch spot?
Havana's good. Yeah, Commercial's got a lot. Commercial's got a lot of good stuff. More of a dinner guy on Commercial. A lot of good dinner spots on Commercial too. But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I think that those that are covering it will like it a lot. I mean, going to UBC, there's not that many spots to go get the breakfast, lunch, and dinner up there. I mean, you guys know that all too well. Burnaby at 8 Ring's not much either. There's the thing upstairs in the building. And then obviously Rogers Arena, there's stuff around it. But I think the media might be happier this is happening than some of the players or the organization. But
dude, I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked. You look out to Del Formaggio right there. Go get yourself a panini. Yeah, I'm stoked.
God, it's old. There's a Milwaukee hat going in and getting a panini, sitting down, going to write something about Brock Besser. We're going to get it
Show up late.
Army,
Show up late for practice with my panini. That's
there you go.
Sounds
but I don't know. I mean, look, I think that the overall reaction from everybody is a positive. There's people out there that say, I don't believe it until it happens, and there's shovels in the ground, which absolutely, that is 100% fair. But I think that this is far enough along where you look at it and say, okay, there's some real traction to this. There have been actual real discussions between people that matter in getting this done. And when you look at it from a standpoint of both the city of Vancouver and the Vancouver Canucks, I think it's a win everywhere.
Irf, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Harm, you have anything else? We got Steven Ellis waiting.
No, we can move to Steven. I didn't know he was here.
Irf, thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
Ciao, boys. Rink Wide tomorrow night.
Rink Wide tomorrow night. There he is. Irfaan Gaffar. Go check him out on Rink Wide Vancouver and go read the report over at CanucksArmy.com. All right. Back-to-back guests, a rare 2-guest episode for us here at Canucks Conversations. Steven Ellis joins us now. He is the prospect guru over at Daily Faceoff. He's one of our favorite people to chat with about prospects, undrafted ones, and Canucks prospects as well. And he's probably one of the only people I would trust to tell me what the hell's going on with Keaton Verhoeff and Irfaan Stenberg. Both of these guys on cold streak, Steven. Please give me some context here.
I'd say it's been kind of, people are going a little nuts on social media. I don't think it's totally fair. Like, I think when you look at the fact that Verhoeff's still playing 20 minutes a night and still looking pretty solid overall, you're impressed. Is he scoring right now? No, that's definitely a little bit surprising there. But, you're still talking about in his case, a 17-year-old defenseman playing 20 minutes a night against grown men. So I'm still pretty happy with that. Irfaan Stenberg, given what he was doing at the beginning of the season, on pace to break all these records, and now he's not going to come close. That one's also quite surprising, but I think the fact he's still playing pretty decent hockey, I think defensively he's improved a bit. So, the numbers might not be there for either team. And Gavin McKenna might be the guy that everyone's looking again at number 1, but I still think that I wouldn't be worried about either of those two guys. I'm not. I've watched both of them recently, and still see all the great stuff about them. So everyone calm down, basically.
Is Verhoeff still And I mean, I don't even remember your original position on this, but I think in the eyes of a lot of prospect experts, they viewed Verhoeff as the slam dunk third best prospect in this draft behind McKenna and Stenberg. Do you agree with that thought process? And has his play slowing down a little bit lately opened your mind up at all to the possibility of other names potentially emerging in that conversation?
I think it's definitely much more open than it's ever been. I think Chase Reed in particular is a name that has been thrown around as a potential number one pick. And then I've seen other people who think he's more of a number 10 pick. So I guess you kind of have to find that fine line there. I think the fact that Verhoeff moves well for his size, he's not like the world's greatest skater by any means, but he's 6'4", skates quite well. And I still kind of also mention that he's very raw as a defenseman. Like he's only been playing as a skater for about 5 years. Most guys he's competing against, been like if they're a forward or a defenseman, probably started at 4 or 5 years old. He was a goalie up until he was 12 years old. So for him, like there's still a long runway, I think, for Verhoeff to kind of develop into becoming this very effective defenseman. Like watch his game now compared to 2 years ago, and you're watching a guy who's come a long way, moves a lot better, makes smarter decisions. But then you look at a guy like Chase Reed, who's definitely in that conversation. I know Corey Pronman had him as the number one prospect for this draft, and I wouldn't put him there yet. But for context, he played a bit in the USHL like 2 years ago, didn't make the Waterloo Blackhawks last season, ends up starting the season in the NAHL, which not a terrible league, but not exactly a hotbed for hockey prospects, goes to the OHL. And now he's one of the best players in the entire OHL, where he's doing a lot of the offense for the Sioux Greyhounds. We've seen him at the OHL top prospect game look really good. We've seen him at the CHL USA Prospect Challenge look very good. We saw him at the World Juniors when Cole Hudson got injured. He became that number one guy, which is a 17-year-old guy that was cut from the under 18 team just a few months before that. That was a bit surprising, but he's been able to take those opportunities in stride. Looks really smart, looks really skilled. I think he's going to be a kind of a big name defenseman. Like Verhoeff, I'm looking at as maybe kind of a Aaron Ekblad meets Alex Pietrangelo type player. And if Chase Reed, we're looking at maybe a more defensively responsible, I don't know, maybe Noah Dobson's probably the right answer there. So no superstar defender, no Matthew Schaefer this year, but still very good defenseman overall.
I know you said not to worry too much about Stenberg and Verhoeff's, on paper cold streaks, but is Gavin McKenna the slam dunk number one for you right now?
No, it's not there's definitely no slam dunk. I still think it's very close. I will say there's arguments for and against Stenberg or McKenna. I think the floor for Stenberg is definitely significantly higher. I think because he's more of a I can do everything myself type guy than McKenna. McKenna has all the skill, but then you won't see him going out there and battling guys too hard on the boards. He's gotten a bit more aggressive, and I think everybody in the scouting world would also mention that his arrest probably actually helped his draft stock more than anything, because it showed, okay, there's this tough level dude there. But I think with him, the fact he's just been on an absolute hot streak, like he was at just over a point per game before the World Juniors, and now he's like, if Penn State goes deep, like he could get 60 points, and all of a sudden this not great college year is like, oh my God, this is an outstanding college year. This is remarkable. And like I remember tuning in just randomly on that one Friday night. I'm like, all right, let's see how he does against Ohio State. Expected to be a pretty competitive series. He ends up getting 8 points in that game. He was unbelievable. Like on the power play in particular, he is unstoppable. He's one of the best power play players. But then you look at Stenberg, like the fact he's been able to do everything against pro hockey players, I think that's also impressive. And at the end of the year, we're probably talking about Stenberg finishing with 35 points. Like that's still in the ballpark of like the Nylanders and the Zetterbergs and those type of players in the SHL. So that's still really impressive. But I'm leaning McKenna right now. I think if I'm picking number one, I'm the Vancouver Canucks. I pick McKenna because you always bet so high on talent. That is the one where I would hate to be the team that doesn't pick Gavin McKenna in the draft first overall.
What do you think is changed in the second half for McKenna, where he seems to have turned this corner after returning from the World Juniors?
I think he just an extra level of confidence. I think what we saw from him in the World Juniors, where he was getting heavily criticized for his play, he had 14 points in 7 games. I'd say that's pretty good. Sure. Yeah. Did he get at some points? Did he inflate them a little bit against some of the weaker teams of the tournament? Yeah, maybe. Did he also get 4 points in the bronze medal game? Yeah, he did. So that's the type of player that you're looking at there and saying like he just needed that confidence to prove that he can get it done. I also feel like between the two, I think there's a bit more natural skill as a goal scorer from Stenberg as opposed to McKenna, where I feel like he's more of a setup guy. And I think that could maybe lose a bit of his luster there. Like he's never going to be a 50-goal guy in the NHL, but he's going to be a guy that can maybe get you 80, 90 assists if everything goes perfectly right. Maybe a bit of a stretch there, but either way, it's going to be a high number of assists. He needs the right centerman. Does Vancouver have the right centerman for him if they take him number one? I don't know. Stenberg, I think, doesn't need to rely on a centerman to go out there and play that two-way game because Stenberg is very strong defensively. But I do think with McKenna, he's showed at the World Juniors. I don't know if that was just Dale Hunter kind of forcing him to have to play a bit more physical, but it showed like that little element of his game that we hadn't seen before. And now he's going into every game. He's hitting guys. He's getting aggressive. Like he cross-checked his old teammate, Caden Lidstrom, a friend of his, in the face. So I'd say that he's kind of add that edge to him that you're looking for, and that's good. But the confidence definitely has been much more noticeable. Doesn't feel like he's going into every play trying to do 1-on-4 by himself and falling apart. Like he's actually using his line mates, but then he's also just using his speed and his skill to win battles when he needs to as well.
Okay, Steven, rather simple question. We've heard Caleb Malholtra's name pop up a little bit more. We've heard Chase Reed. We also play Tankathon every day at the end of this show, and the Canucks keep falling to 3. So in the event that the Canucks fall to 3rd overall and McKenna and Stenberg go 1 and 2, who should the Canucks take? The Canucks specifically, who should they take at number 3?
Right now, I still go best player available. You don't pick for need, you pick best player available in the top 5. And right now I'm still leaning Keaton Verhoeff. I feel like he's going to be one of those guys where you see him now and he struggled a bit in college. Maybe he spends one more year in college. And then next year he goes out and tries to win the Hobey Baker because he's that good of a player. I feel like that's one where the upside for Verhoeff is huge. Is he a bit flawed still? Can his decision-making leave you wondering exactly what's going on all the time? Sure. I also could expect to see him play at the under 18s in a few months and be the best player in that tournament. So I do like Verhoeff. That's who I'd pick number 3. But man, just get number 1. Get McKenna. That's the guy that will instantly sell 1 trillion jerseys and make everyone excited about losing next year.
Yeah.
In terms of Caleb Malhotra, it feels like his draft stock has really been rising from the start of the season when he was maybe mid-first round pick range. Now there are even some projections. Could he go as high as the top 5 just because of the lack of premium centers in this draft class? How much higher are you with respect to Malhotra's offensive ceiling now than you maybe were compared to the start of the season?
Much, much higher. Because like last year, he was playing junior A hockey and he had 26 points in 44 games. And a lot of times when we see guys who go from who end up becoming high prospects that started in junior A, they were dominating in junior A, and he wasn't by any means with Chilliwack. So, but at the same time, like I remember watching him play at the OHL Cup a couple of years ago, one of the premier AAA events with the Vaughan Kings, and he was just like, it felt like he was Einstein playing against a bunch of 5-year-olds. Like just the way he was outthinking every opponent was really impressive. And his two-way game, again, also really good there. I feel like his speed and his natural skills really come alive in Brantford, and the argument can be made that, yeah, he's been playing on a team that's got a very good shot at going to the Memorial Cup. They're very dangerous. They score a lot of goals. Like I think the last time they haven't scored 5 goals has to be 6 or 7 games ago now at this point. He's involved every single night. He's got a good point streak going on. But I feel like it's a lot of what he does that makes him valuable is away from the score sheet. It's breaking up those plays. He could play on the penalty kill. He could be on the power play. He's the one that's often starting plays. Like there's a lot of plays this year where he didn't get an assist, but he was the reason why a play happened type thing. So I like his two-way game. I don't know if he's going to be a high-end offensive guy in the NHL. We're probably talking about maybe a 50-point guy, but one that brings a lot of value. He's in a perfect situation. He's your number 2 center.
Steven, the good news stories keep coming for the Canucks today. We were just talking about a practice facility in a good way before you joined the show. And another one today, Bennett Schmeck signed out of ASU. That seems like a really good news story for the Canucks. What can you tell us about him?
Well, yeah, that was a guy that I remember hearing his name a lot around the 2023 NHL draft. And it was like, if he could figure out how to become a more dangerous skater, if he could be a little quicker, he'd be a very nice pickup. And for him, that is something that he's been able to work on. It feels like he is a little quicker. His numbers this year at ASU have been really good. I remember watching at the beginning of the year and watching the series between McKenna and Penn State versus Arizona. I'm like, well, okay, yeah, I haven't seen Schmeck in a long time. I asked a couple of scouts. I got a story coming out tomorrow about the best college free agents still available, and asked kind of where they viewed him. Some thought he was a top 5 college free agent. Some thought he was more like 15th. So we'll kind of see. It seems like there's still a range of situations here. But the good thing is he's 22 years old. And he just turned 22 or last year. So he's going to be 23 soon. But then you're seeing a lot of these other guys that are 23, 24 that are turning pro. So there's a bit more of a runway, I think, for him. That being said, not the strongest player in the world. I don't know what type of offense he's going to be able to bring to the next level. He's a good playmaker, but you're just kind of hoping like maybe he's a guy that you can call up and see him play some NHL games. That's what you're getting for it this time of year. You're not getting these real difference makers, college free agents. Like there's a reason these guys are passed over multiple times. In a lot of cases, these guys went the 4 full years of college, but he was one of those players that I know a lot of scouts were excited about as a long-term project. Maybe someone who you throw in next year for a couple games, see what he's capable of, but can contribute immediately to Abbotsford. And that matters too. Like that's the thing when it comes to college free agents, you're actually trying for the most part to boost your AHL team. And if you've got a situation where he's out there and could go out there and be a very valuable two-way player, a good playmaker, you're happy. So, given it was basically free for Abbotsford to get him, I like it.
In the late first round and second round range, the Canucks have a lot of picks this year. 2-part question for you. Is the late first round / early second round territory this year better or worse than usual draft classes? And secondly, who are some of your favorite targets in that range for a team like the Canucks to go after?
Well, it's one where they're going to potentially get a guy, let's say, because right now I got my mock draft coming up on Friday. I have them in their current position with that second pick, picking Wyatt Cullen. And he's the son of former NHLer Mark Cullen, very good two-way guy. Or Matt Cullen, sorry, not Mark Cullen. Matt. And with Wyatt, you see that speed. You see that defensive reliability. Like you see a lot of things that made him kind of like his dad. That's a good pick. But he's not going to really excite anybody too quickly. He's not a player that's going to be in the NHL in the next couple of years. And I think with that kind of range, it truly feels like the top 10 of the draft's good. And then after that, it's just kind of average at best. And that's why a lot of people are not super excited about this draft class. But if you're the Canucks and you're rebuilding, like you're still looking at and saying, okay, well, we've got 2 first-round picks. We're probably going to pick in the top 3. We're pretty happy about that. Anything else is pretty extra. There are a lot of centers available kind of in that range. And one I would keep an eye on is Ryan Rubrick of the Niagara Ice Dogs. Now, he is a player that at the beginning of the season and even like into November-ish area, people were looking as a potential top 10 prospect. But I think with Rubrick, the natural ability is there, and he's also 6'4". Like he's got that size you're looking for. 6'4" center who knows how to score. The production's just not been there this year, and I think that's been some concerns for some people. And I think also the work ethic's not great. So you could bet high on him and say like, okay, if he actually reaches his potential, this guy could be a steal. But it's a bit risky at that.
I need you to explain something to me, Steven. They're twin brothers. They have the exact same number of points. Why the hell is everyone trying to tell me, oh, this Ruck brother's so much better than this one? They got the same number of points. Liam and Marcus Ruck. Where is the divide between these two guys? Canucks fans are obviously dreaming of a story where they end up drafting a couple twins in this draft.
I think they're not going to make that happen, unfortunately. And I think part of it is because they're picking pretty high in the first pick. I guess that kind of hurts them there. You're probably not picking one of them in the top 3. I like Liam a bit more because it feels like he's more of a play driver. And I think with Marcus, he's a good playmaker. He does a lot away from the puck. But like there were points early in their careers where you watched them two play together, and it was very clear one was a lot better. Liam was the much more skilled player, the guy bringing the shot, the one that was creating all the offense. Marcus was more of that support guy chasing after plays, probably better on the penalty kill than he would be on the power play. And I think there's been some scouts that are worried that like if he doesn't have his brother to pass to, that he's not as effective. That being said, if they're not drafted by the same team, it's an absolute wasted opportunity because these two players know each other so well. And I know obviously the Canucks would be very excited about that because it's worked for them in the past with the Sedin brothers. But I think the one team to keep an eye on for that would be potentially St. Louis, because St. Louis does have a couple picks, kind of like they have the 32nd pick, but they also have the 22nd pick. It's not crazy to believe they can maybe get them both with those picks. So I'd say watch out for them. But if they're not drafted on the same team, absolutely just disappointing. Like I still wish. I wonder what Alex Holtz's career would have been if he was drafted to Detroit and he was able to play with Lucas Raymond. Because if you don't know their story together, they were called the Terror Twins, and it's because every time they played internationally together, they were unstoppable. But for most of the time, Alex Holtz was the better player. But it was very clear he kind of had to rely a little bit too much on Lucas Raymond. And when they were split up, Holtz stopped scoring and his career is kind of fallen apart there. I really wish those two guys got to play together. We have an opportunity to make this work. Find a way, whatever team, I don't care which team, just draft them both.
Okay, so you brought up the Minnesota pick earlier that the Canucks have. That should be a late first round. Is it a reach for them to go Liam with that pick and then start of the second when they have the first pick of the second round, the 32nd overall pick, because Ottawa gave up their pick? Would it be a reach to go Liam with that Minnesota pick and then your second round pick is used on Marcus? Would that be a reach, do you think?
Not at all. I guess the one issue is I think Liam, his stock has gotten to the point where I don't think he's available. That's the problem. If they're both available, make it happen. I'm just not sure that's going to happen. The fact that they've just been so good so long in Medicine Hat is, I think, good. There is one thing, though, that their defense is also scoring a lot of points there. Bryce Pickford, a Montreal Canadiens prospect's been really good. Jonas Wu, the younger brother of Jet Wu, he's been outstanding. He's got like 80-ish points or something like that. There will be some people who say, well, they get a lot of points in the power play and their defense are the ones who are scoring a lot of the goals. Like that, they could use that against them a little bit. But right now, I feel like it might be a losing battle.
I know we're a little early, but the Canucks are probably going to be bad again next year. And
really,
looking ahead to the top of the 2027 draft class, it seems like the top 5 next year is better than the top 5 for this year. First of all, do you agree with that sentiment? And just overall, when you look at 2027 as draft class, Canucks have some extra picks that year too. Is that projecting to be a better draft than this one coming up in June?
I'd say I liked, at least at the same point last year, I definitely liked the 2026 draft more than I liked the 2027 draft. And not to take anything away from someone like Alexei Joseph's been really good in the QMJHL, but he's putting up a lot of points in the QMJHL, which there's always kind of this stigma as like, is this guy putting up a lot of points because he's playing against some not great prospects? But he's a 6'4" forward that just dominates every shift. So there's a lot of love for him. He's just not Gavin McKenna. He's not, maybe not Irf Stenberg. Then there's Landon DuPont. I don't think he's the consensus number 1 anymore, but he has really kind of turned it around the last few months. Like at the start of the season, he was way too quiet, and it was like, oh, okay, not great. He did deal with an injury, and that I think it took a while for him to look much better. But even at the Hlinka Gretzky in the summer, I thought at times he was the worst Canadian defenseman. So Jackson Jacobson's been really good. I know he's small, so that might not help. It's nice that Sammy Nelson and Carter Mayer has been pretty good at the NTDP. Not loving that draft yet, though. I don't know if there's going to be a ton of depth. We'll see. But there's, at least with me right now, Joseph and DuPont are 2 really exciting prospects. I feel like at this point, the battle for number 1 is definitely closer than it was last year. So that's promising, I guess.
All right, Steven, I don't think I have anything else for you. I'm going to have a lot more. Oh, no, this last one. We got a question in the chat. Vitaly Pinchuk. I'm sure you've heard of him. I haven't. Is he worth a contract?
He's one of those guys in the KHL where it's like, is it really going to work? And I think when you look at the KHL in particular, it's not been a great, like, who was that guy, the guy the Islanders traded to New Jersey? What's his name?
Siplikov?
Yeah. Like he's been on waivers. He's been traded. He's put up no offense. And he was the guy that was supposed to be one of those next big offensive threats. That being said, this is something where with Pinchuk, he's actually been very productive for a very long time. Like 64 points this year, very good. He's got like over 30 goals, I think it was when I was looking at his stats earlier. And he's been very good also with the Belarus national team. That's something to keep in mind, that Belarus and Russia do actually play internationally still. They just don't play against any other countries except themselves. And I think with watching him play with Belarus, it's like, damn, like he's actually been really good. He's still kind of young. I think he's 24. He just turned 24, but he's got that big frame. I would be interested to kind of see what happens with him. I don't know if he's much more than a third line player at the absolute best. And with the KHL numbers, you could see them. Some numbers get inflated a little bit depending on which teams you're always playing against. That being said, I think every team should be talking to him and being interested because he's a big forward. He's younger than the usual KHL guy leaving to come play in the NHL, which helps. But then it's not just like a breakout season like Siplikov had where he had this huge season out of nowhere and then he turned it into an NHL career. Like he's been pretty good for a few years now.
I've got one more broader hockey related question because especially when it comes to prospects, we're evaluating them in completely different leagues. One guy could be in junior A, next guy's in the SHL. You're comparing those guys, and yet it's apples to oranges in terms of the league quality and competition. What have you noticed over the last 5 to 10 years in terms of certain leagues getting significantly better in competition and getting significantly worse? Where I feel like, especially lately, with a lot more of the top WHL guys going to the NCAA, that the NCAA is becoming tougher and the WHL is becoming a little bit weaker. You look at the KHL, feels like lately it hasn't been as strong as it maybe was at its peak. Just what trends are you noticing kind of globally in terms of different leagues becoming tougher or weaker?
Well, first off, Quads, I have that same mug, so shout out to that.
Good mug.
I have a big Venom display above. You can't see it on my camera, but I've got a bunch of Venom stuff, and I got my goalie helmet. I have as a Venom one too. But in terms of like the KHL in particular, you look like because a lot of countries, their national teams are like, if you go play in the KHL, we will not bring you. Like, there's a couple guys that could have played on France's Olympic team that were playing in the KHL. They were like, nope, we're not interested. Like they see it as blood money. And I think that alone has taken a lot of good goalies out of that league, a lot of good goal scorers. And I feel like that's something where you'll see some numbers where it's like, some of the weaker teams are the ones that really kind of got hurt from it. So I think the KHL, the reputation it has really kind of fallen significantly because the Europeans do not want to take part. The level of hockey that got hurt the most by far, Junior A. I used to work in the OJHL. I remember watching guys like Jack Hughes, Mitch Marner, these guys kind of come through the league just for a short period of time, but we're pretty good. And there was also guys like Jake Wallman and Jake Evans, guys that stuck around for a few years because Mario Ferraro, another one, those guys that went to the OJHL to go to the NCAA. But now that that's not really a thing, like junior A teams are just really taking a huge hit where it used to be a couple guys who would get drafted out of pretty much all the major junior A leagues, and now it's just not happening anymore. And the BCHL has been kind of decimated. They were the ones I think that got probably hurt in the most impactful way because of what's going on with the CHL and the NCAA. Like Caleb Malhotra was one of those guys that were playing in the BCHL in hopes of going to college, and everything changed. A couple of opportunities opened up for him. So I think the good news is the younger players, like I'd say the under 18 players in the CHL are better because they're not having to worry about guys going straight to the USHL anymore. Like the best guys are sticking around to play in one of the 3 major junior leagues. It's the guys that are 18 over. That's where things start to change. And we're not really seeing the rise of these big name. Like March 1st is when we could have seen CHL free agents sign. Like, I don't know if we have actually seen a single one sign at this point because for the most part, they're all going to go to college. And that's kind of changing the landscape of those 20, 21-year-olds. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I feel like we've only kind of hit the surface of what's going to happen long-term for prospect development through major junior and the NCAA and all the ripple effects. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting time.
Steven, thanks for doing this. We'll be sure to chat with you soon in the lead up to the draft. Did you see your rankings drop on Friday?
I got my mock draft hits Friday, and I do have a 2027 draft rankings coming out in the next week and a half or so. So lots of prospect stuff coming.
Of course you do. Love it. Thanks, Steven. Appreciate it. We'll be checking that out. dailyfaceoff.com. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys.
There he is, Steven Ellis. Check out his work and his mock draft on Friday over at dailyfaceoff.com. All right. Let's get to anyone else, Harm, shall we? Let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of our friends at Pacific Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. Drive up to 72 kilometers on battery alone, enough to get you from downtown to the rink, the grocery store, and home to recharge. seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. You can plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer during Red Tag days from March through May. All right. So we didn't really get to it. We were going to talk about it off the top, but we did mention it with Steven. Bennett Schmeck signs an AHL deal with the Abbotsford Canucks. This is a big one. This was one that Dave Hall wrote about when he was looking at potential targets for the Canucks to go after when it comes to NCAA free agents. Someone in the chat, and I should look this up, but someone in the chat was saying he profiles similar when it comes to his NCAA college scoring profile similar to Max Sassone. So that's an interesting one. 43 points through 35 games with Arizona State University this year in his fourth year of college. And the season before that, last year, 37 points through 35 games. He was ASU's captain as well.
Yeah, and the key part is not just point per game this year, but to do it last year as well when you're even younger. That's critical because typically the younger that you're able to produce at a high level in these leagues coming up through your development, the greater your chances are of hitting a high level in pro hockey. Now, ultimately, we're still talking about a player that doesn't have the greatest upside, but you know that when you're dipping into the NCAA free agent pool. And on this one, I was honestly kind of surprised that they were able to land him on an AHL deal. I thought his resume would be strong enough to warrant an NHL contract from a team, and that's a bonus because it leaves the Canucks with an extra contract slot open to go out and keep fishing in those NCAA waters. So that's massive to not only get the player, but to not even have to burn an NHL contract slot on it. That's nice business for the Canucks.
Jacob, can they sign Ryan Tattle? He's in his fourth year, right?
When he finishes at UConn, he can, but like he that would be certainly just an AHL at most contract, like probably an ECHL contract based on his college production. But yeah, he's going to graduate and he'll be available to sign.
Bring him home.
Yeah. Like, and I say ECHL, like I would hope it's an AHL deal so we can play in Abbotsford. He's from Port Moody, but friend of the show, obviously. He was on last year. So
yeah, we've had him on twice now, 2 years in a row.
That's right. We have.
Promote Sport for Cancer. Shout out Ryan Tattle. Okay, so Bennett Schmeck, you brought it up, Harm. That's second year, right? It's the first and second year of being above a point per game. That's the one that really intrigues me. Here's what Dave Hall wrote about him as well. I want to make sure I get this right. So let me just actually pull it up. But Dave was very high on him. Like when I texted Dave and said, "Hey, can you get this newser?" He was like, "Oh man, like that was my guy. That was my guy that I wanted." So I was I found it pretty funny that Dave had not called it, but like said, like, this is a guy you want to see the Canucks go after. He had a list of 8 here. I got to scroll down. I think he put him at the bottom. Yeah, here we go. NCAA transfer portal allows players to find new homes and greener pastures. Transfer from Providence College to Arizona State did just that for Bennett Schmeck. Since the move in summer 2024, he's been an offensive machine, 79 points in 68 games. He's one of the more coveted Hobie Baker nominees in 25-26. This season alone, he sits near the top of national scoring with 42 points and ranks second among undrafted free agents. He's earned several NCHC Forwards of the Week and was awarded the Conference Forward Award of the Month in December. Like the others on this list, we like Schmeck because of his work rate and willingness to go to all areas. He's 5th among NCHC forwards with 28 blocks to go along with his impressive point totals, and is the Sun Devils' most utilized forward and is even their go-to penalty killer. Just seems like a guy that is going to be, there's going to be a lot of options for him. And really with head coach Manny Malhotra down in Abbotsford, that's good. That's an interesting project for the Canucks. A really interesting project, really intriguing signing today.
Yeah, and Abbotsford needs some good stories as well. They've had a tough, difficult year. Their lineup has been depleted at times, and I'm interested to see how quickly he's able to hit the ground running, whether his game translates immediately or whether there's a learning curve, right? Because that often tells us a lot too, is how quickly are you able to adapt to the pro game. Sometimes the guys that take a while to adjust don't end up becoming difference makers at the AHL level, and then obviously as a consequence don't even end up in consideration for NHL call-ups or contracts in the future. So that's going to be interesting to watch down the stretch.
What's that meme of I think it's Idris Elba where he says, "I want you to get the word out that we're back." What's it from? Do we know what it's from?
I don't.
Jacob, look it up. Book Idris Elba. But I saw that today because it was two good news stories for the Canucks today. You had the practice facility, and then you also had Bennett Schmeck. I know they might seem like small stories in the grand scheme of things, but like what bigger stories are the Canucks going to have right now? These are two positive. When's the last time there were two positive stories on the same day for the Vancouver Canucks? Seriously, when was the last time? I'd have to rack my brain.
I would not know off the top of my head.
Yeah, and today, great day. Like all positive vibes today. All Canucks conversation, all positive vibes. No even like with these stories, no caveat of like, well, yeah, but also here's another way to look at it. You know, just good news stories for the Vancouver Canucks. It's nice. It's nice to just talk about positives. It's from The Wire. He was on The Wire, Jacob. Are you sure about that?
That's what Google is telling me.
I gotta watch The Wire. I've heard that's a really good show. That's HBO, right?
Yeah, he was on The Wire, and that's where the clip is from. He was on seasons 1 to 3 of The Wire.
Wow. How old is Idris Elba?
50 something? 53.
Wow. Yeah, book Idris Elba. His show Hijack on Apple TV, fantastic. Well, I only watched the first season. Apparently there's a second season, but wife and I are waiting for the full second season to come out before we subscribe to Apple TV. So shout out Idris Elba. Harm, any thoughts on Idris Elba?
I don't think I have any. You gotta know I'm not a big watching TVs and in movies.
You've seen The Office. You've seen The
yeah,
Office.
of course.
Charles Minor. He's Charles Minor in that show. Remember?
Right. Okay. I thought that might have been him, but I haven't seen too many of his shows outside of that minor role he had in The Office.
He's in that commercial that's on Sportsnet right now as well. So
very good actor. Very good
actor. I like Idris Elba. All right. Jacob, I think we have a little time. Oh, no, we don't have time. Sorry. We might have time to get to baseball, but I think this is important. As we just said, all good news stories. I'm not even going to frame this as a bad news story. It's just that I know it's noteworthy and that people are going to have their reactions to it. Evander Kane back at Canucks practice today. He is back on Elias Pettersson's wing. It was Kane, Pettersson, O'Connor on the top line, Ogren, Rossi, Besser on the second, Sassone, Blueger, Carlson on the third, Curtis Douglas, Atu Ratu, Jake DeBrusk on the fourth line. And we wondered who was going to be the guy that comes out. If they wanted to get a longer look at Curtis Douglas, it looks based on today's line combinations that is going to be Nils Höglander.
This is why it sucks that they couldn't find a taker for Kane, even for future considerations, just for preventing this scenario where Höglander, I think, he still hasn't really found his footing, but he's been a bit better lately. And
yeah, he's been looking a lot better since he's been playing with Elias Pettersson, and Pettersson's looked better since playing with Höglander.
Yeah, and to me, he's still a player that you have signed beyond the season, and you want either for him to find traction just for the sake of next season, or even for him to find traction just for the sake of at some point trying to cash in on him as an asset and get a little bit of value back. And to park him in the press box again, it's just been such a start and stop season for Höglander with the injuries, with some of the healthy scratches. I'm not getting consistent opportunity further up the lineup, and to now foresee a possible scenario where he's back in the press box and Evander Kane's back on the top line. It's exactly why I think everybody wanted to see the Canucks somehow find a taker for Kane, which they unfortunately weren't able to do at the deadline.
And they tried. Like they absolutely tried. They were willing to retain. I saw it out there. There's this idea that they didn't want to retain on Evander Kane contract. A, they kept the one retention slot open, and B, they knew no one was taking him at 5.1. Like they were absolutely willing to retain on Evander Kane. I'm reporting that. I'm saying that with full confidence. Just stop. They're like this idea that ownership's sitting there and they're like, I don't know, guys. I don't think so. I don't think we can just stop it. They were absolutely willing to retain on Evander Kane. Nobody wanted him. It sucked, but they absolutely tried to move Evander Kane. All right. Yeah, I don't have anything else on the Canucks practice. I did want to mention the signing that took place today. You good if we get to that, Harm?
Sure, yeah.
Nick Schmaltz signs an 8x8 to stay put with the Utah Mammoth. They've got a nice practice facility. The other thing we didn't mention, the Canucks, when they go present to free agents, NCAA, whoever, they say, hey, trivia question for you. Who's got the newest practice facility in the league? We do. They're going to have that honor. They probably waited out 5D chess from ownership. They probably waited out the Calgary Flames. Those idiots opened up their facility in 27-28. Now the Canucks get to open theirs and say, we have the newest practice facility. And they're going to hold that title for a while, you would think.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask me a question about Schmaltz, and instead you set this up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That too. Nick Schmaltz, okay, signs an 8x8 with the Utah Mammoth. Like I said, they got a nice practice facility. 8x8 with the Utah Mammoth. Really, he was the one free agent we were looking at and saying, like, there's your big ticket. Like, there's your big free agent. Once he signs, everything else is kind of smaller. Now he's off the table. Alex Tuck still isn't signed, but as we said even yesterday when we talked about it, like, Tuck is probably going to re-sign in Buffalo. He was there for all the lean years and was like committed to the Buffalo Sabres during the years where it would have been very easy to not be committed to the Buffalo Sabres. The years that ownership wasn't even committed to the Buffalo Sabres. Alex Tuck was committed to the Buffalo Sabres. So you would imagine that he's going to re-up in Buffalo. If he's off the board, Harm, this list of free agents on July 1st is looking very, very bleak. Like Jack Roslovic is the new number one guy, you would think.
I don't think Roslovic's number one, but he's not far.
Who's number one?
He's in the top five,
who do you
top
think
five range.
One?
I'd have to pull it up, but it's not Roslovic.
Okay, I want you to pull it up right now and tell me that it's not Roslovic.
All right, give you a sec.
Take your time. And as you do that, I'll list a few free agents because I wrote about it over at Canucks Army today. We've got Alex Tuck, Rasmus Anderson, John Carlson, Roslovic, Trouba, Malkin, Michael Bunting, Jaden Schwartz, Mason Marchman, Anthony Mantha, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Boone Jenner, Anders Lee, Bobby McMahon, Scott Lawton. Those are the big guys.
Okay, so Darren Radish. Not that I think Radish is the most exciting, but he's over a point per game as a defenseman this year.
Do you think Darren Radish is going to sign more than Jack Roslovic does on July 1, Harm?
I think so. As a defenseman, Jacob, especially, right shot.
Jacob, write it down. Harmon's wrong.
All right, here we go. I get to write something down. This is fun. Okay.
Roslovic signs for more than Darren Radish on July 1.
Okay.
And if they sign on July 5th, it still counts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's in free agency.
Yeah.
Roslovic will sign for more than Darren Radish. Got it.
Roslovic has had a good season, but don't you think a right shot defenseman that has 17 goals and 58 points in 56 games is rarer and is going to demand more money?
Don't you think he's going to be a check down option though when Rasmus Anderson is also going to hit the market, you would think? And also,
yeah, but
Radish is 30, right? Like Radish is 30. He's only done this for one season. Do you think one season teams are going to be lining up to back up the Brinks truck for him?
Well, look at last free agency for Roslovic. Teams had a bunch of cap space. Free agent market wasn't exactly great last year, and Roslovic had to settle for a cheap 1-year deal.
Yeah, and now he's had a pretty good year, and now I think he's the top forward. I think, okay, and with that in mind, who's to say Darren Radish doesn't have to do that to show that he can do this away from the Tampa Bay Lightning?
I think teams are so hungry for right shot defensemen that they're going to swing. I mean, look at how desperate teams were ahead of the deadline for right shot D. And look, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I would want to be the team that bets on Darren Radish off of this one season, but he's 7th among all NHL defensemen in points this year. He's 6th among all defensemen in goals. It literally goes, you want to go points, it goes Evan Bouchard, Zach Oredzki, Cale Makar, Lane Hudson, Quinn Hughes, Rasmus Dahlin, Darren Radish, and then Miro Heiskanen, Jacob Chychrun, and Jake Sanderson. I
don't know, man. I don't think that's going to happen. I get what you're saying. And
I'm not saying he's going to get paid a huge bag. I'm not saying a team's going to step up with like $8 million times 7 years or anything, but I'm also looking at Roslovic wasn't really able, not just this past free agency, but he hasn't really looked at his history of contracts. He hasn't gotten big tickets.
Yeah. Yep. That's fair. I think this is the year though. I think they knowingly did this. They knowingly took the 1-year deal so that he could go out. And again, he's got 27 points. It's nothing spectacular so far, but go out and really just be an even weaker free agent market than it was last year. Like, teams are going to panic. And again, the sticker shock of Christian Dvorak at 5.51, Kiefer Sherwood at 5.7. Like, if these are the numbers being handed out to those guys, you would think that a guy like Roslovic is going to probably land either in that range of like 5-6 years at $5 or $6 million annually.
Really? You think he's gonna get that?
Yeah, I'd say at least 5x5.
He's been he's been a 40-ish point guy his entire career.
Yeah, but when no one else is out there, I just think it's economics of like they're gonna have cap space. There's gonna be no one else out there. Put it this way, Harm.
But
would you rather give up a prime asset of like a second or first round pick for Jake DeBrusk, who's a winger at 5? You're gonna have 5 years left, just over $5 million, or would you like to just go sign Roslovic yourself to a 5x5?
The only issue I see with that logic is last year's free agent market was also pretty weak. And what did we see? We didn't see crazy overpayments. We just saw teams went, all right, we'll keep our cap space.
Yeah, but things are worse in the free agent market now than they were last year. And also the cap is rumored to be going up even in the years that haven't been announced yet. We talked about that last week. And like, if assuming teams know that, like, they know that they're going to have a lot of money to play with here. I think it's going to be a big ticket. I think it's going to be a big ticket for Roslovic. And really, the broader point here is just that we're arguing about Darren Radish versus Jack Roslovic as two of the top guys available in free agency. And the thing I wanted to bring it back to is, if you're a Canucks fan and we're putting the Canucks spin on this, it's that this is probably good news for those guys that you held at the deadline. This is probably good news if you try to go trade Elias Pettersson this summer. Look at the center market specifically. Again, Darren Radish ain't a center. Jack Roslovic is not really a center either. Go look at the center market of UFAs. It is pretty damn weak. So this should be good news for the Canucks when you go visit the idea of trading Jake DeBrusk in the offseason. When you think about, do we want Elias Pettersson here long-term? And when you start to have these questions about these guys we didn't move at the deadline, do we want to move them now in the offseason? If you're the Canucks, you have to be feeling pretty good that another guy is off the board today in Nick Schmaltz.
Yeah, and I don't think that necessarily means that teams are going to necessarily overpay in terms of the acquisition cost for those guys, but it does mean that I think a market will be there.
Yeah.
Where, for example, last summer, and I think it's important to kind of show both sides of the coin. I think a lot of teams were looking at, especially once we knew Marner was basically going to go to Vegas anyway, that there weren't a ton of difference makers at the top of the lineup available in free agency. And so when it came out that JJ Peterka was probably available, we all assumed, man, how many teams are going to be in on JJ Peterka and what kind of home run offer is it going to take to acquire him? And yeah, the trades aged very well for the Buffalo Sabres, but it's mostly because Josh Doan ended up being way better than anybody thought he was going to be. When the Peterka trade happened, very few people looked at that and went, whoa, what a return for the Buffalo Sabres, right? It was Kesselring, Doan, and like a second or something. It was like a decent return, but it wasn't a return that necessarily reflected, hey, the free agent market is thin, so a team really had to overpay for a high-end top six younger player in Peterka. It was more that there was still a high volume of teams interested in the player, but I did find it interesting that nobody overpaid as a result. So now when I look at DeBrusk and Pettersson, who are like have question marks, have warts when it comes to their games, when it comes to their contracts, that's kind of what I expect, not in terms of the return Peterka went for, but the overall dynamic of there being more teams than usual, maybe kicking tires, but I'm still not necessarily expecting that someone's going to overpay and knock your socks off.
When I saw the Schmaltz signing today, another Canucks thing that came to my mind, Harm, was what's Teddy Blueger thinking right now? Because we were thinking, okay, yeah, the Canucks didn't move Teddy Blueger at the deadline. They're probably going to look to extend him. What's an extension for Teddy Blueger look like? Probably similar to what he's on now. 2 years, $2.5 million, just kick him some change. That center market is looking so damn bleak right now. What is Teddy Blueger going to sign for in free agency? And really, my broader point being, it made me think, if I'm Teddy Blueger, I'm probably not taking whatever extension the Canucks are offering me right now. I'm at least getting to July 1st if I'm Teddy Blueger. And that offer from the Canucks will probably still be there on July 1st. And if it's not, I could probably get that in the open market. If I'm Teddy Blueger, I am probably trying to test the open market, seeing with how little is out there, especially on the center market.
Probably, but I also think there's a risk in overestimating your own market, which
we've seen.
I think what we learned last free agency is that there are certain types of players that teams will overpay for, but it doesn't, like, one of the conversations I had around the start of the season when we knew the cap was booming was I heard from a lot of agents and teams that the lower class players, kind of depth guys, fourth liners, I don't think teams and agents are expecting those types of players to necessarily command a ton of money unless you're a player that fits a specific like size niche that teams are looking for, right? If you're Tanner Jeannot and you offer the physicality part, yeah, then a team like Boston will step up and you're going to get more money than you normally would have in the flat cap world. But for example, when Pontus Holmberg didn't get a contract from the Leafs and he's solid bottom six guy, had an intriguing profile that maybe he could be a little bit more, and actually has been excellent in Tampa Bay. What I'd kind of heard was, all right, there are a lot of teams interested in Pontus Holmberg, but the money being thrown around still isn't that high for whatever reason, because teams are also budgeting for how expensive their like re-signing their stars is going to be. And so you look at the kind of contract that Holmberg signed for, it wasn't a big ticket deal, even though the free agent market wasn't all that great. Pia Suter was expected to be, it was basically the top center in the market, and he only got $4 million times 2. That was a little bit different because, again, it was more of a stylistic thing where he's small, he doesn't win a lot of faceoffs, and he's slow. So just in terms of the physical attributes, that's just the type of player that, even though teams have cap space to spend, they're just not going to pay for that type of guy. So when the cap goes up and there aren't many valuable free agents, I don't think the takeaway is that every player is suddenly going to make a ton more money. It's only going to move to the types of players that have attributes that teams actually covet. And when I look at Blueger, yeah, he has some desirability with his faceoffs, but when Vegas won the cup, he was a 13th forward. And I think that's telling. So I don't know if you're Teddy Blueger, you don't want to end up overestimating your market and then being underwhelmed with the offers either.
Teddy Blueger might fire me as his agent. I'm like, yeah, Teddy, hit free agency, and then no one comes calling. And also worth mentioning, no one seemed to really want him on July 1st, or excuse me, at the trade deadline. So that's at least something to keep in mind. Okay, anything else on free agents? We're running over time here. Anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. We're missing a Canadian heritage moment, apparently.
Jacob, I'll give the update. So Canada is up 7-2 on Cuba in the top of the 9th inning. So if they hold on to this 5-run lead, they will win their group at the World Baseball Classic, going to the quarterfinals as the 1 seed out of Pool A, meaning they would play the 2 seed in Pool B. Notably, that's the pool with the United States, who may finish either out of the knockout round altogether or in the 2nd seed. The odds are right now, just if you're playing the percentages, you get Canada versus the US in the World Baseball Classic. Could we see the revenge for the Olympic gold medal game in a different sport a lot sooner than we thought? It's possible. I will say Canada's played well. Their pitching has been really good in this game, but Cuba's defense looks like a little league team. They've dropped 3 easy fly balls in this game, all 3 of which have led to runs. 5 of Canada's 7 runs can be attributed directly to these dropped fly balls, and they're winning 7-2. So,
and you had the Italians putting the beat down on the US Americans last night.
In a game that the US thought they didn't care about because they thought they'd already booked a quarterfinal berth, fall down 8-0 and have to try and make a comeback because they realize, wait, if we lose by 8, we might get eliminated. They still lost, and they still have to now hope that run differential works out in their favor. So
if
Canada
and the US meet, how significant would Canada be underdogs wise?
This would be like at the Olympics if Canada lost for hockey, if Canada lost a quarterfinal to like I don't know, Quads. What do you think? Like Slovakia, but like, nah, Slovakia was good this year. I guess if they lost a quarterfinal to like Germany, maybe.
Damn.
No.
Yeah,
It's somewhere between Slovakia and Germany, Jacob. We don't have a nation for it, but it's somewhere between that.
Switzerland?
Because Canada's playing well. Like, Canada has
Yeah.
big leaguers on their roster. Like, Josh
They do.
Naylor's like the best player ever.
Well,
And he's their captain.
Germany's got Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah,
and
well,
JJ Paterka and Mo Sider. And like, it would be something along those lines, right? The US would be, even though they're the 2 seed, would be so heavily favored, but they were heavily favored to beat Italy and they fell down 8-0. So,
and did you say James Paxton at the young age? What is he, like 37?
37.
Okay.
He's still a free agent. No MLB team wanted him. He's out there throwing 95 miles per hour, struck out 4 Cubans in 2 innings.
Jacob, book James Paxton, Mariners legend.
I would love to. BC
Yeah.
native, from
Book James
Ladner.
Paxton. Isn't he Maple Ridge? I thought he was Maple Ridge.
No,
no,
he's
that's Larry
Ladner.
Walker. Yeah.
Larry Walker's Maple Ridge.
Harm, have you seen the video of James Paxton? The eagle landed on his shoulder, the bald eagle, during the American anthem.
No, I haven't seen that.
Jacob, I know we're over time. Do you have time to pull that up? We could get it for tomorrow.
We'll get it for tomorrow.
We'll get it for tomorrow.
Especially if it's
National
Canada. If
anthem
it's Canada against the US in
Yes.
baseball, that's the perfect thing to do. You've got Big Maple with the bald eagle on his shoulder.
Yeah, Big Maple is such a good nickname. Oh, also, last thing from me on anyone else. Tyler Myers was speaking to reporters in Dallas and politely requested that the nickname Chaos Giraffe not follow him to Texas. Keeping it in Vancouver. Wants it to stay in Vancouver. Shout out to Wyatt Arndt. Stanchies. Big Tex is the one that's being thrown around with Myers down in Dallas. I like that. That's a good nickname. We should have been calling him Big Tex all along. What do you mean pretty good? It's a great nickname. Big Tex. And then people
Chaos Giraffe. I still have a soft spot in my heart for Chaos Giraffe.
Well, Chaos Giraffe was all time. We know that. And also anyways, yeah. But Big Tex, I like that nickname. There's people replying to that when people were saying on Twitter, they were like, "Oh, it should be Big Tex," and people were like, "Oh no, it's Mizey." What are you doing? Don't enable the lame hockey nicknames. Get creative here. Get creative. All right.
We are very over time, but I'm not letting Quad skip the Tankathon. No intro to it. We're just gonna go quick and see what happens. And another 3rd overall. Chicago, New York both move up. Vancouver drops to number 3. I've got a spreadsheet going now with like charts to auto update, and I've got the side-by-side bar charts of the probability of each pick and the actual results, and it looks so funny. And I get that it's a small sample size in the grand scheme of mathematics, but still, the charts are going to look nothing alike by the time we're all done with this.
All right, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365. We usually look for home underdogs, but today we're taking a road underdog because the Montreal Canadiens are in town to take on the Ottawa Senators. The Habs beat the Leafs last night, 3-2. Tonight is the debut of our new friend, Max Lapierre's new podcast, Hockey with an Accent. He's going to have Kevin BX. He's going to have all sorts of guests. You heard it on yesterday's show. If you missed yesterday's show, the interview with Max was really, really good. Worth going back and listening to. It's their first show after this game, so we're going to be watching this game. We're going to be watching Hockey with an Accent on YouTube. The Montreal Canadiens are plus 160 underdogs in Ottawa tonight. We are taking that. We are taking Habs moneyline. They're going to get a win for Max and his new show. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Fun show today, boys, but we got to get out of here. For my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Guidrelli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.